Except, no.
We're not
We
rolling.
lost the file.
Why does this always happen to us?
Welcome to EduTech Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
Hello and welcome to this episode of EduTech Guys Radio, brought to you by Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative and Hope Public Schools, both in Hope, Arkansas. We want to thank CDWG for providing some of the equipment that we use on the show. Welcome aboard. I'm David Henderson.
And I'm Jeff Madlock.
And I'm Greg Moore.
And this is the crew.
It's the crew. We're here on
Despite
another
the rain.
Wednesday. Yes, despite the rain.
Good gosh.
It has been quite a crazy couple of days with a couple more to go.
Yes.
We're gonna have to build an ark.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can do that. That is going to be our PBL. That is our project-based learning project. We're going to build an ark.
Going to build an ark.
You okay?
Yeah, I was just checking labels.
Jeff was contemplating the microphone very closely, and we're like, are we
A
on?
lot of hot mics in the room.
Hot
mics.
It's funny, we have this issue with mics. And it's just like,
I don't think I think that's kind of like, that's blaming the microphones for the environment. I think we're just sort of like
it's
in
the room too. The room's
Yeah.
hot.
Room's hot.
It's a hot room.
It's a hot room.
It's a hot mess.
It's definitely a hot mess. No doubt it. So today we're going to be talking a couple of things. We'll be talking about South by Southwest EDU, and we'll be talking about flexible learning in the podcast world.
That's your
we're-
fault, by the way.
I know that's my fault. We're going to be talking about different schools are starting to implement some flexible learning environments, and so we'll be talking about that and throwing in ways that podcasting might be part of that.
Ba-da-bum.
And we'll have a feature artist of the week, yet to be determined.
Pull one out of the
And
old
we
library.
will also have our Google App of the Week. Google App of the Week. And then whatever else we come up with. We are on Periscope today, so by all means, hit Periscope. Look up EduTechGuys. You can hit us up on Twitter at EduTechGuys. Head over to radio.edutechguys.com and pull up the chat, and you can chat with us, and we'll be happy to answer questions, talk with you, do a little jig, whatever. We're good.
Make a little love.
No, we are not doing that.
Get down tonight.
I'm sure I forgot something else. I don't know. www.edutechguys.com.
Sorry, I'm just moving some windows around.
Jeff is putting stuff in our way so we can't see, but that's okay. We're good.
So, you pretty much covered everything that was on the screen.
We did.
right there.
And then you recovered it with the window.
Sorry, my bad. That's my job.
Good job.
I was meme shamed today.
Oh.
At least I didn't say meme shame.
No, but if you could, it doesn't matter. Really, in the scheme of things, when it's all said and done, it doesn't matter. We just roll with the punches.
Rolling.
So yeah, we were talking about South by Southwest is a big deal. It's the big, for the longest time it was just a big music review. We'll just call it that, conference music review, where all the big game players in the music industry got together and they talked about all the good stuff that had to do with the music and the stuff like that.
The music and the stuff.
And then it got to, in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of startups began to show up and, push their wares there. Because nothing goes with entertainment like social media and, apps and all
Sure.
the startup and stuff like that. And then some of the education people went, well, let's go, because they're doing these apps. And how can we incorporate these apps into education? And they got smart and went, hey, you know what? Before it all starts, let's do a whole week of education. I think it started off as 3 days or 4 days. It's 3 days now. It's the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. So it's 4 days. Because then everything else, and now it's even got video. They do movies. They do the whole thing. So South by Southwest has turned into like a 2-week or 3-week event.
Good heavens.
But the really cool part is about, like this year, Temple Grandin was, one of the keynotes, and they've got Guy Kawasaki and all these people,
That's
hosting
cool.
forums in education
Man,
and
that's
talking
very cool.
about all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we probably should have been there, but yeah.
Should have been there. Hey, you know what? We will make plans to be there next year.
Yeah, this is what it says from the website. South by Southwest EDU is a component of the South by Southwest family of conferences and festivals that include South by Southwest music, film, and interactive, South by Southwest Eco, South by Southwest V2V, I don't know what that is,
V2V.
internationally recognized as the convergence gathering for the creative arts. South by Southwest EDU extends South by Southwest, that's a mouthful, support for the art of engagement beyond musicians, filmmakers, and new media innovators to include society's true rock stars, educators.
Educators. They cater to
Where
educators.
is that G in there?
Educators?
Edu.
Edu?
Edu.
Edu,
No,
edu.
edu,
Parting
great.
is such sweet sorrow.
Not been edu shame. This is getting worse. Today's just going downhill. Going downhill for me. No, I think it's pretty interesting stuff there. They got a lot of program tracks. This year, they're doing the cognitive process, data analytics, educational equality, gaming and education, instructional strategies, instructional tragedies. We've all had one of those before.
I think
Yeah.
that would probably be a very informative panel if they were to have education track. These are the things to avoid. Don't ever do these things.
Once I pulled my laptop off the desk,
Oh.
and the Bunsen burner caught the curtains on fire.
Oh.
Learning spaces, special needs. This year, I understand special needs has really taken a big jump at the show. There's been a lot of cool panels on it. Yeah, entrepreneurialism. Say that one three
Wow,
times fast.
that's a lot of syllables.
Entrepreneurialism. I can't believe I said it right the first time. I can't say single syllable 3-letter words barely. I can get that one out of my mouth. Implementation. I love that as being a topic. Implementation.
Implementation.
That makes no sense. Leadership, assessment, continuing education. Yeah. So, pretty neat stuff. I think it would be fun to go to. Like I said, they've got summits. They've got the big one that I think is really interesting is they do this mentor program where you sign up on the front end and they put you with a mentor. And I think they had their mentors listed here at one time. And yeah, they do. They still have them there. And it's all kinds of people from all kinds of neat places. Like this one's a chief operations officer for 117 Media. All of them have to do with something about education, but they're kind of bigwigs in their field. Yeah, there's executive director from Mind Pop. That's pretty
Mind
cool.
pop.
Mind Pop. Well, chief technology officer from Microsoft.
Wow.
Yeah, and you get partnered with these mentors, and then they help you work out whatever you're working out. If it's a new idea for learning or just something along that line. Pretty neat stuff. A lot of people.
Indeed. Man, the list goes
For a
on.
second there, it went by fast. I thought it was Clint Eastwood there. Flying right around me for a second. And a Quaker. No, it's just a
Oh.
So yeah, it's a pretty neat deal. I think it would be interesting to go to. Maybe one day I'll trip down to that and see what it's all
Trip
about.
the life fantastic down to the South by
Trip
Southwest.
Delight Fantastic. That's good. No, so South by Southwest. If you get a chance, visit the website sxswedu.com.
That's also a mouthful.
That's also a mouthful.
SWEDU.com.
Yep. Check it out. They've got lots of good stuff on there. The keynote, like I said this year, was Temple Grandin. If you don't know the Temple Grandin story, it was a great movie. I don't remember the actual actress that played her. Was the one that played in the boxing movie, something Bye Bye Baby or whatever. Anyway, she's a great actress. But Temple Grandin is autistic. And it's a story of how she overcame autism. And she's Dr. Temple Grandin, in fact, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she overcame all that, and she's a mathematical whiz. So, but she's taken that idea, and she actually helped researchers understand the need for autistic people to have a secure, safe, warm environment. Like a securing environment. And in fact, since she grew up in Texas on a ranch, she used what was you've probably seen them. They used them to put cattle in to hold them still while.
Oh, yeah.
She used a device like that to help her keep her body still.
Oh, wow.
To help her learn to concentrate and focus. And that's a big problem with a lot of autistic children is they
Constant physical
concentration,
activity.
yeah, the physical activity, and she helped to pioneer that area to help them understand that, which is a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. Lots of folks there. Yeah, Dan Rather's going to be there giving away the Rather Prize. I don't know if you'd rather win it. Or something else.
Oh, you beat me to it. I was going there. I had my mouth open and
I knew you were going for it. I was like, God, stop it.
I saw that. I saw that. It just as
Is
soon
it
as,
yet?
as soon as it's coming out,
Is it really
Jeff was like,
good?
"I'll take that."
I was not fast
I'll
enough.
take it.
Yeah, I realized it. And the real big one is Max Ventilla is going to be there. He's there. He did Silicon Valley and education equals real change. I don't know if you've heard of the alt school. Have you heard of the alt school in Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley's alt school is pretty neat. It's about $21,000 a year to send your child there. But it's in San Francisco, and you show up, and the first thing you notice is over here is this beautiful lit room with kids in it, and they're doing some different kind of learning, almost kind of like what we're going to talk about in a minute with flexible learning. But then you look over here, and there's a giant, beautiful, well-lit room with all these people in jeans and hoodies coding away on these machines. And that's the professors. That's the teachers for the school.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And it's kind of like it's a really neat idea. You know, it's flexible learning taken to that, farthest level. But here are all these technology, geeks, teaching at the same time. Really interesting deal. Yeah, alt school. It's a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
So the guys in the hoodies are in control
Of
of alt school.
we've all known that for a long time.
if you don't do well, they'll delete you. Control, alt,
Control.
Is this going to be a funny episode?
delete. Oh, not very good ones. Sure.
There's no such thing as a good pun. It's one of those things that as it gets worse, it gets better.
Well, in that case, that one was awesome.
What's great is I guess we could jump into flexible learning
Flexible learning.
if you guys want to.
No, we want to sit here and just shoot the breeze. No, yes, let's go for it.
Sure.
So David brought it up today, and I thought it was a great topic. We've been talking about podcasting and how to use it in the classroom, and there's literally 5,000 different ways. Okay, maybe not 5,000, but there's a lot of ways to use it.
Yeah, man.
But we were talking about what flexible learning is because your bosses were going to look at a school here in Arkansas that was looking at flexible learning.
Yeah,
Do you
and
want to summarize it, kind of what it is?
well, let me back up just here before I get there. We've got a district that's in our service area who is very interested in implementing a pilot program around the whole concept of a flexible learning environment, and essentially, there's a couple of things that I've attended, a couple of things I've looked at, where we've talked to other districts who have implemented flexible learning environments, and essentially the student, it really becomes the
master.
the-
Wax on, wax off.
yes, the student becomes the master. No, but the student really takes charge of their own education. Whereas in a traditional classroom environment or a traditional school day environment, students come at a particular time, they stay in X amount of classes for X amount of time. They must perform whatever the assignment, tasks, projects,
There is a
whatever.
single path until you reach high school, and then you've got a
Yes.
small handful.
Yes, exactly. I'm a gamer, so it's very much, that kind of run and gun. It's very linear. You're
Right,
going
exactly.
down this road.
It's
pretty much,
on rails.
yes, it is on rails. And flexible learning environments kick them off the rails. It's kind of like an open world
It's an
environment.
RPG. Where you can specialize as a paladin or
Yes, there you go, exactly. And so the students working with educators, and generally speaking, they actually work primarily with an educator. So essentially, let's say in a high school environment, a student comes in, let's say ninth grade, and that ninth grade student is assigned to, or really it's kind of the other way around. A mentor is assigned to that student. And that mentor is a licensed educator who actually becomes that student's mentor, confidant, leader, guidance throughout the rest of their high school career. And so essentially they develop an outline of where the student expects to go by the end of their high school career. For some students, it's a career to put them on the path to go into college. For other students, it's a path that's going to get them welding certification before
Trade
they
school
leave,
or-
right?
right.
Before they leave the high school environment or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so the classes then are geared in that direction. Now, just like we all face, 4 years is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 4 years. You may change your mind and decide, hey, you like this rather than that. And so
Right.
that's where that mentor comes in and helps them shape their educational goals. By the same token, the mentor is also there to help make sure that student stays on track.
Right, exactly.
So where the flexibility comes in, and this is, to me, I think this is a very cool concept. I would love to see what it looks like actually in practice. But rather than kind of the 8 to 3 school day, schools with flexible learning environments generally have their doors open earlier. So maybe they start at 7 in the morning and they go till 7 at night. Now, that doesn't mean you have a teacher who's there from 7 to 7, right? They figure out what the schedule needs to be in order to make sure things are covered. But you might have a student who would rather come in at 10 and stay till 7.
Yes,
or
please.
a student who would rather come in at 7 in the morning and leave by, whatever, 1 or 2 or whatever time that needs to be.
Right.
Excuse me. Maybe they work another job, they do whatever. And so there's flexibility in that, but then there's also flexibility in what they're accomplishing. So basically, as long as they're on the right track overall, they have flexibility within the school day, within the school week. So maybe this week I'm struggling with my Algebra 1, and so I'm going to spend a lot more time working on my Algebra 1 than I do my science or my composition or whatever other subject I might be working on, knowing that I've got to make sure that all of that eventually gets done within the semester or the year or whatever the kind of outer parameter is.
Right.
But I'm flexible within that time period to get that stuff done.
Right.
And I think it's very cool. It gives students a lot more control and freedom over their own education.
Yeah, that's really, I was homeschooled, so you just described pretty much my entire education. So, that
good.
was like, so, we would basically start school. The job was to get the schoolwork done, X amount of schoolwork done in the dates. Whenever you want to start it, and however long you need to spend on each individual subject, that's what you go for. If you want to spend 3 hours reading some history that was assigned instead of this typical one because it's a really interesting period of history, okay, great. Now catch up on math the next day because you can't ignore that either.
Right.
But yeah, it was flexible when start time was. We didn't have like a rigid schedule. Okay, you must wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and eat breakfast and then go here and do this. It was very much, okay, wake up, okay, I got these things I got to get done today. Do this. Oh, this is really interesting. I'm going to focus on this for a while. Or, I've got to work through this new lesson in such and it's being really hard. I'm going to focus on this today and work through it. And like you said, it was very flexible for not only what you were doing in the day, but what you were doing on a year-by-year basis, where it's like, okay, what are you focusing on? A lot of our reading assignments were self-elected, where it's like, okay, what are you interested in? Like early on, whenever we were in the earlier grades, it was, you needed to read books in order to practice reading, but, the subject could be any number of things. I remember we would go to the local library, and we would come out with all 3 of our library cards maxed out with just like, tip fingers to chins worth of books.
Yeah.
Now, my arms were a lot shorter back then, so that's not saying as much as it would be today. But still, we would go every week. We would go through that many books every single week because this was before the internet existed, at least in any practical sense. So, the library was like our primary resource. It was like we would go and we would get books, and I remember reading books on everything from robots, because what 8-year-old kid doesn't love robots, to origami, to all sorts of different subjects, woodworking, and just all sorts of interesting little facets of stuff that you could fill in. And of course, you've got the standard subjects, which don't necessarily mold to any particular path you might be thinking you're going into as a career, like, math is math and that sort of thing. But yeah, the curriculum we went through was very much, as aside from, I think, mathematics and like maybe, like grammar and spelling. I think those are the only two subjects that didn't flex to meet, what are you interested in as a student. Now, I would be interested to see how they're actually pulling this off in a environment where you have such a more skewed ratio of students to teachers, because as a homeschooler, it was me and my sister start out with one teacher, so that's a pretty good ratio of instructor to students. I wonder what kind of ratio they manage.
Well, they actually let me take a breath. Okay. So a few weeks ago, I was in Little Rock with my two bosses and a whole room full of people, and we were talking with a group, or it wasn't a group, but a man representing a district from, I believe, Utah, and another man representing a district from, I believe, Illinois.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to throw those out, and that's what we're going to go with.
Utah and Illinois.
Feel free to correct me out there in cyberspace if I need
You are
to be.
wrong, and you are on the internet.
Yes, exactly. But they actually talked about that type of thing, and generally the student to teacher ratio for this flex environment is about 25 students. So
Really?
about what a regular classroom is. The difference is they're not teaching those 25 students all the time every day, right? Those students have the flexibility to work on whatever projects they need to be working on,
Self-directed or whatever.
a lot of self-direction. But there were times where on this Tuesday we are all meeting together and we're going to talk about this,
thing.
right? Exactly. Or if of those 25 students, maybe 8 are having a particular problem in a particular subject that mentor is certified in, right? So let's just say it's, biology. Okay, so we have 8 students who are having trouble with this particular aspect of their biology lessons. They would come in for a small group, and the teacher would be working with those students while the other students were still continuing on whatever they were wanting to do.
Right.
So that was, and if I remember correctly, it wasn't just 25 students. It was like 25 students per air quotes grade level. Which that was one of the other things that they completely had. Well, not completely. For all intents and purposes, they had obliterated grade levels. But for the purposes of
testing,
being able to explain and being able to test and assess and all that, they still had to use the grade level nomenclature, because if you're doing standardized tests and this is aimed at all 9th graders, you've got to know who you're, who is geared at that.
What is a 9th grader?
Right, exactly. Well, and that was, and that really, that's the ultimate question.
Right.
What is a 9th grader?
Right.
And so 9th grade was actually kind of easy, because when they came from 8th grade, which was traditional, they were traditional. One of the districts was traditional K7. And then, K8. And then 9-12 was the open, hey, let's learn this way.
Okay.
Right.
So they knew coming in, you were an 8th grader, you're now a 9th grader.
Right, exactly. Because you just got here.
Because you just basically,
Right,
right, exactly. Now, once you're here, then that
you're
suddenly
in
becomes
the
this kind
soup.
of wild thing,
Right, exactly.
potentially. And I use that term very
was
lovingly and loosely.
That's also very similar to what we had in homeschooling, because I remember sometimes we would go out to we were in some sort of social situation where it wasn't a bunch of other homeschool families, and someone would ask you, "What grade are you in?" And I would pause and I would go, "I'm not sure," because it's like, okay, you go to the next grade level and okay, your teacher's the same, your classmates are the same, the school building is the same, the school room is the same.
Yeah.
You might use a different textbook, but you were probably never on the grade level you were, at least not for us anyway. If you were moving through a textbook faster than normal, well, you just moved on to the next grade level whenever you reached the end of it. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, well, I'm in 12th grade for reading, and I'm in 9th grade for math, and I can't remember which is the one I'm supposed to be.
Right, yes. And both of the districts expressed very similar situations. And essentially what the way they work is the students, the courses are assigned credit hours, for lack of a better description. And the students advance by showing mastery and
Of the
or
material.
enough proficiency
Right.
of the material of the given of that given credit, so that yes, you've passed that credit, therefore you move up. And it's very similar to what you're talking about. You could have students who are 12th grade readers
Right.
and 9th grade math.
Right.
Okay, and so very flexible, but even though you have all these pieces and parts that are not necessarily in sync, the student is on the track moving forward
Right.
to whatever their ultimate
Oh, sure.
education goal
Exactly.
is. And by the same token, one of the questions that came up from one of the other participants was, okay, so what about remediation? So what if you have a student who comes in at quote unquote 9th grade and yet they're not even close?
Right.
And that was one of the things I said, yeah, then that becomes part of their education plan.
Right.
And if their education plan is, let's just say that you have a student who comes in and they are determined that by the time they graduate high school, they want to be on a track to be pre-med. They want to be a doctor.
Right.
Okay, and they don't have certain skills that are even up to the 9th grade level yet when they walk in the door. All right, so we're gonna work with you to build up those skills, and once you can demonstrate those skills, then we can monitor and adjust your plan. You're really gonna have to work hard,
Right.
because we've got some things that we've got to make up here.
Right, exactly.
But if you're willing to put in and you've got the drive, by all means, go
Right,
for it.
exactly.
And so, and they said that doesn't happen as often as they really had originally anticipated. Now, when they first started it, there was a lot of that, just because they were still figuring out how all the pieces went together.
Exactly.
But the longer they've been doing this, the less and less that's gotten to be an issue, partly because they've been working with the traditional side of the curriculum, helping make sure that by the students get to 7th, 8th, and then 9th grade, they're ready for this program.
Right, exactly.
In one of the districts, when they were first starting out, and this is kind of a recommendation, this is one of the recommendations that they made, they started out with this kind of pilot group of students, and the students had to apply, and they had to demonstrate, hey, we're going to, I want to do this, I'm going to apply,
Right.
here's what I'd like to, here's what I want to do, and they said it grew and grew, and ultimately, it wasn't worth having an application process.
Right.
It was like, this is stupid. We have, 85% of the student body is applying. Yeah, it's time to quit the application thing. It's time to just do it, you know.
Exactly.
So I'm very interested to see what the folks that are going off to to this other school in the state to see what they're doing. It'll be interesting to see when they come back, what they come back with, and if the district gets the grant that or the School of Innovation, I guess it's a grant. If they get it and are able to start this up, it'll be interesting to see how they implement that scenario.
Right, exactly.
So, but
I think another one of the benefits of this is the fact that because whenever you actually express to the students, okay, here's the end goal. Here's where you're trying to get. You want to be a this or a that. This is where you're shooting for whenever you leave here, and it's coming up quick. I think that additional level of control given to the student is empowering, because there's nothing like doing something when it's forced on you it's like, oh no, and then all of a sudden when it's like, okay, now here's where you've got to be
right.
in X number of years, and it's coming up quick. Here's the various possible paths that you can take to get there. Pick one.
Right.
At that point, it's like, okay, well, I got to do this thing in order to get there. So,
Yes.
there's less of the, oh man, the man is making me do this,
Right.
or whatever.
Yes. Well, that was one of the things that one of the two districts talked about was their graduation rate, and they said that the graduation rate,
Graduation.
really had taken a leap forward within just a couple of years of implementing it.
Right.
They went from that kind of middle of the road, not that it was low, but still,
Right.
it wasn't a great percentage, to now I think they said they're at a 97% graduation rate. I mean, it's phenomenal. And that's what he said. He said, putting the students in control of their own education is empowering. It
Right.
gives them the control. It gives them the power.
It gives them buy-in, especially.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so turning this all back into the ed tech scene.
Yeah.
First of all, this generation, the last two generations of kids, they like personalized stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about it, everything that they do now is personalized. I want my music this way, I want this way. So they like choice. Well, this, flexible learning gives them the ultimate choice if we're smart enough to get out of the way and make sure that it's broad enough to allow them to personalize their education. Yeah. So the neat question would be, so, it's funny, back when you were doing homeschooling, technology was nowhere where it is now.
No, gosh.
Think how that your mom's approach to schooling would be different right now for you.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Yeah.
The internet bias said just add the internet, not bring in iPads or, MOOCs or any of this fancy other stuff that we talk about on a weekly basis. Just the internet, full stop, would have completely revolutionized everything we did.
Yeah.
No more weekly trips to the library. It's like all right there instantly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think that's the big deal to me now is that I think flexible learning, the idea has always been around. And it's been used in certain situations to work out well. In a homeschooling situation, very small class size. So it can work much easier in a homeschooling situation than maybe it could have, say, in a group of 20 or 38 kids or whatever it was.
Right.
But see, now it's different because now with the technology that we have at our fingertips, the ability to personalize it.
And the teacher and the textbooks in the room are no longer the only source of knowledge.
That's
it's like,
where
if I don't know it, I got to ask the teacher, and then all of a sudden the teacher's like tied up with that one student.
Right.
Whereas now, as long as the students have become acclimated to learning of actually teaching themselves.
Yes.
I think that's also something that this brings to the table is the fact that once they have been kind of shown, okay, this is where you're going, it's up to you to pick where you go, that also encourages this whole self-directed learning where it's like, okay, I'm going to go out and find the information rather than, okay, I'm working through the textbook, chapter 1, chapter 2, etc., etc.
Well, what's interesting about this is that when you look at the original college format at universities, most graduate students taught the classes for the professors. And the professors were back taking the textbooks and taking their own writings to validate what they were teaching the students to keep it as current as possible, as realistic to this is what you're going to deal with in the world of blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So what we're actually doing is we are freeing up the teacher once again, because now the teacher has the ability, we were talking about this earlier, the teacher has the ability to go, great, I've got 38 kids that I'm in charge of. They all seem to be doing good. I have this handful that I have to meet with on like a weekly basis just to help them stay on track, but the rest are pretty self-directed and going, great. I can now sit back, take a look at what they're doing, and turn out podcasts or video podcasts or documents to help them know that immediately I've made all these shares for them. And we actually get this ability like we used to have where, now we're keeping it all current so that I can say, great, I can make sure they're following the blog or they're following the Google Classroom, and I'm keeping them posted up on, hey, you're working on algebra this week, here's a few helpful reference sites.
Sure.
Right.
You're working on your history, here's this stuff. Hey, I made a quick podcast and I did some lecture notes for you if you need them on these terms and these blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We're actually opening up the ability for our teachers to not be bored in class again, to go, hey, I'm actually providing content that is easily accessible by the students. And there's where the tech starts to come into play now, is that, the sharing of the students to that. So we were talking about it, Greg's self-motivated. So Greg's teacher would just be like, Greg can handle himself. Greg emails me, he tells me what's going on. I literally haven't seen Greg face-to-face in 3 weeks. But Jeff, I got to stay on top of Jeff. So I meet with him on Tuesday mornings for 15 minutes and Friday mornings for 15 minutes just to make sure that he's got his stuff going on. And, Greg's going to get it all done. He finished English in 3 weeks. He finished science in 3 weeks, and his big deal is math and coding, and that's what he spends most of his semester on. His other stuff's working out great. Jeff, I have to give him a little more. Listen, you need to have these lessons turned in by this time. Don't care when you do them.
Right.
Don't care how you get about to it, but I need to, that gives us the ability to actually personalize learning and help a student achieve. Because some of us need that rubber band that changes wrists every day to remind us of that thing that we're supposed to be doing. So that, it's a really big deal. But now with technology, we're at that beautiful point where we can really keep up with somebody.
Right, exactly.
That brings a whole new insight into one-to-one.
Sure, absolutely.
It really gets to the true meaning of one-to-one. David's one-to-one is an iPhone. Greg's one-to-one is a MacBook. Jeff's one-to-one is an iPad or a Chromebook or what is that? The Surface tablet.
Right.
Did you like that? What is that thing called? the Microsoft Surface tablet. But I mean, it's true. There's actually a great commercial on television now, and it's the two top ladies and Bugs, and they're talking about students. Have you seen the one? It's a Surface tablet deal. It's a little funny. I mean, they said, well, it's funny because you can pull up my video of the Katie did. Well, she's running a full-blown Surface tablet, but it's like you could tell that. And the other lady says, well, I can't draw on my screen on my MacBook Air.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff you see on the commercial, you go, yeah, you couldn't have created that with the Surface tablet. But that's okay. But they kind of let you know that, hey, there's a place for both of these things there. And I agree with that. But, now that one-to-one aspect in flexible learning comes in really quite interesting. And we were talking that one of the schools that your bosses are visiting, they use Chromebooks. Yeah. And in this point, a Chromebook does make a lot of sense for, this kind of thing, especially where you're moving. But then again, so does an iPad or a Surface tablet or a MacBook.
Or whatever.
Just depending on what the level of the child is, or the student wants.
Well, and
I mean, if a kid is into engineering and shop class, they might not need some big blowout. They need stuff to just get their stuff done and do research on. I need to see a video on using a table saw to create a 1/2-inch quarter wedge cut on a blah 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 blah. Great, I can do that on anything. So it comes into that. So I mean, I just think it's really interesting that I think the flexible learning idea is something that a lot of schools need to look into. The interesting part is that even though it sounds great, I believe that the planning, which most people hate to hear, on the back end is even greater than most schools can even think about what they're doing now with one-to-one implementation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The planning is about 10 times deeper than they could ever even, because now you're talking about multiple paths. At this point, a one-to-one development rollout is everybody's going down this path.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and here's the thing. On top of that, not only is it everybody's going down this one path, but in most one-to-one implementations, you get the one-to-one device that you get.
Right.
In a flexible learning environment, it's one-to-one, or at least you would hope. And then again, maybe it doesn't have to be one-to-one. It doesn't necessarily have to be one-to-one as long as they have access to the computer. Not everybody has to, or I say computer, to the whatever device they need.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that every single student has to have one every single minute of every single day.
Right, exactly.
No, if you have enough to cover what the students need.
Yeah.
But let's say, for the sake of argument, you are doing one-to-one. To me, anyway, it means that one-to-one is simply that you have enough devices to cover the number of students you have. It does not necessarily mean that a student is assigned a particular device for a semester, a year, or whatever, right? For this particular, what I'm working on now, maybe an iPad works great, but I'm working on this other project, and so my one-to-one this week or today or this hour is not the iPad. I need a MacBook, or I need whatever, a laptop, or I need a tablet, or you know what I mean? I think the one-to-one is very fluid, or should be very fluid, to help the students achieve their goals, not necessarily what the tech guy thinks one-to-one should be in the district.
Right. And I think that's a big deal. I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot more schools now back on the bandwagon of encouraging students to bring their own technology. And I really agree with that. And I agree with it more now when I think about it, is because a household will provide for their student what they can afford. And that's good, because that's realistic to a student. That keeps a student centered. But the other thing it does is a student's personal device is a personal device that they know inside and out, and that they have hacked, to use a dirty word, to be their personal device. It's got their pictures on it and their background and their fonts, and they know exactly what it can do. And they are better at getting into a situation with their device and going, okay, I need to do that. Let me figure out how to do that on this device. And not, well, next period I'll have a Chromebook, and the next period I'll have an iPad. And so, they're going to be more adept at using that device, and be more adept at going home and using that device outside of school to go, I can write this paper on this phone. That's not a problem. I got no problem with it. It's not really an argument against that necessarily, but having your own device is great as long as that device can meet the need. The standard.
And I understand,
I agree.
some students may say, I can whip out this paper on my phone. But if that's all they have is a phone, and actually they go, I can't whip this out of my phone. I'm going to have to have another device.
Then the district, then the school has to step up.
Right, exactly.
I agree with that completely.
Right.
I think that is a better stewardship of our money
Right.
and
Yes,
stewardship to the taxpayers and to the students involved. I think that's
Yeah.
a better thing to go, we want to do the best thing for you. And as I look back on it, yes, K through 6, K through 4, we provide you with a device to prep you. Now, as it gets older and older, if I had a dime for every time I saw a third grader with their own, cell phone, and we're at that point. But it also brings us to when we talk about planning and we talk about flexible learning. Flexible learning also means flexible understanding. It also means flexible ethics. It also means flexible. You sort of getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the big things that happened this week in our realm in the little state of Arkansas was, oh my gosh, emoticons are violent.
Oh gosh.
Right.
And I'm bringing that up because one of our fellow tech coordinators said, well, I'll just write out gun. How's that? I mean, some of this, it all comes back to, and in our own district, we have kids that request certain websites to be open.
Right.
But the sad part about it is they write some stuff in there sometimes that you think they have no comprehension of who they're writing to.
Right.
And see, I think that's the part that it brings us back to the talk we have all the time about they're not digital natives.
No. Right.
A first grader, when the first time you give them something and in 2 weeks they're coding, that's a digital native. I mean, yeah. What's he writing? What's he spelling out with his letter blocks over there? Holy crap, it's HTML5. Then you got something there.
Right.
But overall, just because they can use it,
play games or whatever.
The 4-year-old that
Right.
shot his mother in the back, shot her with a gun. Is he a marksman? No.
Right.
He used the gun. But
Right.
he's not a professional marksman by any means. He's 4 years old and he picked a gun up and he pulled the trigger. And I think that's the part we also have to address, is that we're not doing enough training on why we use the device and
Right.
why we're using the internet and how we're using it. That's
Right.
where I believe that homeschooled children get a better experience than anyone can ever imagine. And I'll say it because it is their parents, and you won't find a homeschooling environment that's not teaching ethics and correct usage of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the net. It has nothing to do with modern technology. It's ethics and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big basis. And somewhere in education, we lost that.
Oh yeah. Well.
And we have the ability in public education to now
Yes.
step back up and go, great, it's time to teach ethics and knowledge. And we have this perfect medium of, now let me show you exactly in real time why you want to do
Right,
this.
exactly.
Well, and I think back to when I was in grade school and middle school and what have you. Those were the kinds of things that primarily, we learned those types of, or I learned those kinds of things at the library, at the school library.
Yeah.
Right now, what do they call media center,
Right.
not medium centers, media
Not
centers.
large, not small, just the medium
That's
centers.
right. Media centers or whatever. But that's the kind of things that's what we would learn going to the library or doing research for the teacher. They would, in addition to the actual research, we would get instruction and guidance on researching. Why is this comic strip not a viable resource
Right.
for your paper? Why is this source better than this other source?
Right.
Why in those days, why is using this encyclopedia or using this newspaper better than this fictional book or even this nonfiction book about that same topic? Why is it that one source is better than another source? And I think somewhere along the lines that has, if not completely disappeared, then has been severely diminished to the point where we no longer teach students or I don't. It's not being as taught as proficiently. We're not teaching students how to research, how to look up information, how to vet those sources. And I think part of the problem is, getting back to the digital natives idea, we have students, like you said, you see, heck, at this point, you see 18-month-olds, 18-month-olds who
Yeah.
are, holding an iPad in their hand or an iPhone and they're playing with it and doing this. Are they researching and stuff? No. Okay. But they are coming in early and earlier, younger and younger. knowing how to, they know how to Google.
Technically adept.
Yes, you know,
not,
and
not
they
masters by any means.
No, exactly, and that's and they know, and that's why I said, you know, they know how to use Google, not necessarily how to use it appropriately.
Right, exactly.
But the other side of that is they're not necessarily being taught how to interpret the results.
Right.
You know, that's one of those things that you do a search in any particular search engine, and you know, we as tech people especially know, you ignore the first half a dozen entries because they're all ads or bad sites or
sponsored links
exactly
or
sponsored. And we know the other thing that we have learned as we have searched and used various search engines and have explored the internet, we learn, even just by looking at the results and checking just the URLs that are listed in the little in the little snippets.
Right.
We say, that's a bad URL. That's not a good that's not a good site. That's not a good site. Oh, this one is MSDN. Okay, yeah, that's going to be a good one if I'm researching something on Windows. Okay, yeah, then that's a good place to go.
Right.
And those are the kinds of things that students really need to understand is not just how to search. You can't search for what's the longest possible bridge, bubble. Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly.
What are the keywords you need to look for?
We see that all the time. Our firewall, it reports that.
Yes.
And so all the time we're getting these reports with like searches that were clearly copied and pasted from the teachers. Okay, teacher said, okay, find me something on da 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 da, and then you would see that exact link popping up in Google searches all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're missing that opportunity. Hey, you listen to radio.edutechguys.com. I'm going to give the guys a break here. We've been talking some time here. We'll take a little break and visit us on Twitter at EduTechGuys. But visit us on the web at www.edutechguys.com. We're going to take a quick break with some music here from Trey Johnson, Nick C., and one of our good friends, and a commercial for his law firm here on EduTechGuys Radio.
Sing along, you want to. Hey, mama said the way you move gon' make you sweat, gon' make you groove. I'm gonna make you groove. Darling, when you walk that way, watch your honey drips, I can't keep away. I can't keep away. I got a roll, no, I can't sit still. Got a flaming heart, I can't get my fill. I said, oh, 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 oh. Didn't take long till I found out what people mean by down and out. Honey, don't you count me out. She spent my money, she took my car, tried to tell her friends she gonna be a star. I don't know what y'all been told. A big leg woman ain't got no soul. Let me hear you. I said, ah, 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 ah,
Blake Montgomery is a new young lawyer in Hope. He's located in the Bancorp South building at 200 South Elm in downtown Hope. Blake is a Hope native and a graduate of the University of Arkansas. He is a general practice attorney providing solutions for legal needs. Blake offers assistance with contracts, real estate transactions, and other commercial issues. He can assist individuals with a will and/or estate planning. Blake is proud to serve the citizens of Southwest Arkansas. Phone Blake at 777-6700. That's 777-6700. Blake Montgomery, attorney at law in the Bancorp South building in downtown Hope.
Side of the tracks, ain't no way back, ain't no way to get that woman. When it all fades black, know that you can't get that, honey, you can't get back no one. So hold on to what you've got and heal the damage done. But just know you're not the only one. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. Don't let them tell you you ain't good enough. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. Honey, you were built for love. Living in the wrong time, thinking with the wrong mind. Think you better get back, woman. Back into those night moves, thinking with the right moves. Still you can't get back no one. So hold on to what you've got and heal the damage done. But just know you're not the only one. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. Don't let them tell you you ain't good enough. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. Honey, you were built for love. So hold on to what you've got and heal the damage done. But know you're not the only one. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. Don't let them tell you you ain't good enough. 'Cause honey, you were built for love. 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 Honey, you were built for love.
You're listening to EduTechGuys Radio, come to you live from the Southwest Arkansas Educational Co-op in Hope, Arkansas. I'm Jeff Madlock here with David Henderson and the Greg Moore. You were listening to Nick C., Built for Love, one of our favorite artists. We play his songs pretty pretty much every time we're on the radio. That was Blake Montgomery Law Firm, good friend of all of ours, and we played his commercial for him. If you need some law work, he'll come to your house and he'll sue your roof. I don't know. That's here in Hope, Arkansas. David giggle.
Wow, that train just right off the rails.
That's what we do. Hey, let's jump ahead. Been a fun day. We were talking about South by Southwest EDU. You check them out at sxswedu.com. That's a long website, isn't it? Just look up South by Southwest.
Just Google it. And speaking of Google,
yeah, we were talking about flexible learning. We were talking about Google. The Google app feature of the week is researching. I'm kidding. That's an inside joke. This one is there's some. First of all, the update of Chrome added all your extensions now that are running in the top bar.
Throws them back up.
That was a big problem. You know, it only showed like 6 to 8.
Well, it only showed whatever extensions were configured to actually show an icon in the what do they call that portion of the bar? There's a name for it.
Extension icon portion of the bar.
But yeah, anyway.
In the address bar.
So there were extensions that could hide, and usually what would happen, not all extensions, but there were malicious extensions, or what do they call them? Potentially unwanted programs.
Pups.
Yes, exactly, which would hide, and they would never put any indication that they were running, and they would do things like change your home page and change your new tab page and change
Back
search
in the
engine.
old days of DOS, we called those TSRs.
You need to watch your language. This family show. Mr. Doss. That was one. That's one new Google feature. Cool. The other one is a lot of great templates just came out from Google for docs and slides and for numbers. Is it Google Numbers?
No,
Sheets.
Sheets.
Yeah.
Oh, I get those.
Oh, sheet.
Okay, forget the DOS thing.
Wow.
That was the Greg Moore, man.
I couldn't resist. It was
Wow.
right
But I
there,
gotta
and I
tell
had
you,
to
you
go.
beat me to it.
That was good.
I got you back for that one earlier.
That was good.
Yeah, but there's some new doc templates that came out, and they're pretty hot to trot. They everybody from Reading Rainbow.
Doc template?
Doc template.
Oh.
You,
And
Mr. Silly.
He goes and pulls a picture. Now you're gonna have to post it to Twitter so that everybody knows that we were laughing.
I am.
That's true. Yeah. If
It was a picture of Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
But anyway.
After we derailed Jeff 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's actually
Okay, I needed a second. So yeah, 6 new templates, and there's a bunch of them. QuickBooks, 6 of them. That's a bunch for Google. Both of you can just. It's been a day. They've been picking on me all day. I almost said something. You two can go to the bathroom. Okay? You can go to the bathroom.
Sorry, man. Yeah, but you walked right into that one.
Shut up.
There's 6 templates. There's a bunch of them.
I hate this show more than anything. Anyway, Mr. Train Off the Rails here. Google Docs has 6 new templates. QuickBooks did some. Reading Rainbow has done some. Everything from science fair projects to some QuickBooks stuff to Reading Rainbow did one on book reports. It's a template for book reports, and they did one for lesson plans. Check them out. You can just go into your docs or slides and go to new templates, and you'll see them right there in the choices. So
awesome.
There's your nice document templates. Lots of them.
Well, boys and girls, what we have learned today is that 6 constitutes a bunch. That's what we've learned. Yeah. You have a bunch of bananas. How many do you have? 6, evidently. Just saying.
How many are usually in a bunch? You two can go to the bathroom. Listen, we're going to get out of here for this week. And I'm going to beat these two to death with their own shoes.
Stick a fork in us, man.
I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
And I'm Greg Moore.
You're listening to the radio.edutechguys.com.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.